You like,
I haven't got anything from Benji.
I don't know, right.
Oh, sorry.
Welcome back, everyone. If you could perhaps attention. Lovely. Right, we're kicking off the final section of our speed management hearings this afternoon. We have 3 further submissions. The first of our submitters this afternoon is Doug Rowland. Doug, are you? Thank you. So Doug, if you'd like to take a seat, that would be fantastic. We'll just run through a bit of information for both myself and the committee members. Committee members, Doug's written submission is 158 of the full submission pack, or page 20 of today's speakers pack. Doug, you have 10 minutes to present to this committee this afternoon. It is suggested that you make the presentation during the first 5 or 6 minutes and allow a few minutes for questions from members. Your allocated time includes both your presentation time and time for questions. Amy will give you a wee wave if you get to 9 minutes, just to let you know that your time is coming to an end. On that note, you can make a start whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Yes, Doug, I'm up here in Martin Borough. Make some commentary around the Martin Borough proposed changes. I've made submissions at the last hearing, but obviously the playing field's changed and things are a little bit different now. They seem to be more common sense as far as I can see. So what I'd like to say is that in principle, I agree with all the changes that are being proposed, where the 100k speed limit is coming down to 60. So, and on Lake Ferry Road, Tahi and State Highway. I do question why you want to change the speed limit on Campbell Drive from 50 to 40 kilometres an hour. It's so negligible, and given the nature of that particular road, it just seems quite unnecessary, and I'll comment on that further in a wee while. The suggestion of reducing the speed limit around the square to 30 kilometres an hour, in my view, is quite a nonsense. I'd invite any of you when you leave here today to try and drive 50 kilometres an hour around the square, which is the existing speed limit now. It's near impossible unless you do a wheel spin from one edge of the square to the next part of the square. And I'll comment for why later. If you did choose to make a change like that, 30 down to 50 down to 30 kilometres an hour, the other complicator for the council is that there's 8 intersections in the square there. You'd have to put 8 new 30 kilometre signs on the entry to all of those intersections where they're going to square, and then 50 kilometres going out. And that seems a bit of a nonsense as well. Nelson's Road, 70 down to 40. I think that at best it should be 50 kilometres an hour. The problem with this sort of process, that my experience in the past has been that people put it through the complicator. There's just too many options and far too many people. And the classic example of this was when the last government had the speed limits changed from Nelson to Picton. You'd leave Nelson at 50 kilometres an hour, hit 100, then you'd hit an 80, and then you get to Hura and hit a 70, you get to the bottom of the Whanganui and hit a 60, and then all the way through to Havelock, you have 60, 80, 100. And it is incredibly confusing for motorists and the police alike. If you're a cop and you're doing speed enforcement in those areas, you have to be really on your game to know that you're within a particular block at a particular time. And the same thing's going to happen around Martin Borough here. If you had hundreds, 60s and 50s and 40s and whatever, I would just suggest that you try and keep it simple. You've already got your hundreds, which are not a change. You're not changing. You're going to make some reductions down to 60 and all those high risk areas that are too fast now. And then everywhere else where it's already 50, leave it there. There seems to me there's no necessity to make any changes. I can't see any factual reason in terms of your crash history or your speeding history, via tickets or whatever, I don't know whether you still have RSAP meetings on a regular basis here, but you know, the opportunity would have been there for the council to establish how many people have been caught speeding in all these different blocks in the Wairarapa in the last year or in the last 5 years. And I think it'd be quite negligible compared to the other parts of the country. If these speed limits, when you put them in, you're going to be relying totally on the goodwill of cyclists, pedestrians and motorists to adhere to everything. I think I can quite confidently say that you're not going to get a lot of enforcement work out of the police. They've got too many other things to do. I've never seen a speed camera man over here. You very rarely see police officers doing dedicated speed enforcement over here. So you'll make all these changes to the speed limits. And the only way that they will be enforced is people self-enforce themselves. Like, I don't think much is going to happen otherwise. And if you put it through the complicator, make lots and lots of different speed limits all over the town, it's just going to confuse people. You know, they won't know where they are getting to town. So that's pretty much all of it. So
It's fantastic. Thank you very much. Do committee members have any questions for Doug, please? I just, feel free, it's not really critical to our day, but I just wondered, do you have a background in road safety at all? You speak like someone who does.
yeah, I was a cop. And when I retired, I was the Wellington District Road Police and Prevention Manager. So there's 12 police districts in New Zealand. The Wellington one goes from the airport, State Highway 1 to PPP, and the airport to down Bristol, State Highway 2. And myself and another chap, we were in charge of the speed camera operations, the serious crash unit, the traffic alcohol group, the highway patrol, strategic traffic unit from Wellington City, Lower Hutt City, Upper Hutt City, Hollywood City, and Hollywood. We had a working group of 85 on dedicated local staff. That incidentally don't exist there. And 30 local sergeants reported to me. And that's for my job. I had to go to conferences, meetings and workshops of FETA and Ministry of Transport, Greater Wellington Council, and all the TLAs in this district. And I went to numerous ones here at your council office when I was doing that job. So I do know this stuff inside out. I know what works and what doesn't work. And as I said, people put these things through the complicator. My suggestion is you just try and keep it as simple as you can. Don't make too many different speed limits. Just make sure that, you know, all the areas are well posted. And, I mean, I think the police do a fantastic job, but like everyone, their resources are limited. And they don't do a very good job over here.
No, I appreciate that. Like I say, you know, anyone can speak on these matters, but you hear of knowing of experience. I appreciate you letting us know that. Any final questions before Doug departs? Thank you, Doug. Thank you for your written proposal and for being here this afternoon as well. We'll
Thank you.
deliberating over the next coming weeks, and then decisions will be made.
Thanks for shooting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
And I apologise if I've said that incorrectly. That's correct. Yes. Perfect. Thank you. Committee members, this submission is located on page 160 of the full pack or 21 of the speaking pack. Like the speaker before you, you have 10 minutes to present to us. You're welcome to split that up to allow us some time to ask you questions, and Amy will give you a wave at 9 minutes when you're ready.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Just for context, I live in Prentice Lane, which is from Garrity Lane, which comes on Humphrey Street, because you asked, if you live on the road, you are very close to Humphrey Street and also family at Wood Street. So I've got some questions which might not really relate to speed limit, but I'll come back to that later. Now, I read on page 4 that stretches, as mentioned above, have no footpaths. There must be a 40k speed limit in place. Now, in Woodside, on Wood Street and Humphrey Street, on both roads, there are stretches which have no footpaths. And that's, I don't know why the developers haven't been asked to put footpaths there. But there's an increasing traffic from walkers and bikers and also someone on scootmobiles. So why is there no 40k limit on the stretch between Arfina Drive and then back to High Street, Arfina Drive and Garrity Lane, and on Wood Street between Houston Lane and Woodlands Way, where you have 16 new places where children live, and Garrity Lane and Printville has about 20 houses where lots of children live, walk to school, and there is no footpath. So this is my plea, either a footpath or a limit to 40 k's to make it safer for the walkers in that stretch. I commend the speed restrictions on Humphrey Street and Wood Street. It is really necessary there. I walk a lot and I bike a lot, and the speed limits are not adhered by lots of people coming from the station. You know, we have 100 to 50, but when they come to 50, they stay on still 70 or 80. And it's the same at Wood Street. People coming from the rural area into the center, they just ignore it. And my family lives there with children, they live in school, and I see a lot of people speeding there. Question for the council is, what are you going to do now and in the future when the 60 days limit are in place to monitor it, to check it? Speed bumps, cameras, is it for us to ask the police to come and check the speed of those areas? It is very, very dangerous. So the other thing which I know that you can really think about is about the state highway, with 100 kilometers. Now we are on 100 kilometers again, coming from Featherstone. They come into Greytown, it's from 100 to 50, and you can change it. But is the council in consultation with NZTA to look at a reduction further down to Featherstone, that they actually come down from 170? And people see that 50 k's, there is no warning. They suddenly are there at 50, because Bidwell Street, there is the high school. They are not driving by 50, so that's another question for the council. So I think I'll just leave it as this, and I just hope that the council can give me some answers for the questions they are and what they are doing about the speed control on the street and on unforeseen safety comes first.
Thank you for that. We will go to questions. I just wanted to clarify, and it is frustrating, but unfortunately in a hearing situation, we are not able to answer questions and provide information. All my councillors can do is ask you questions of clarification, but I'm sure that we can, I've written down some of your questions and we can come back to you at a later date with information. Councillor.
Was that just over coming into Greytown to clarify that the council has actually put a letter to NZTA to get that speed reduced coming in from Featherstone, so just to let you know.
Well, thank you. Then I just know that is in place. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Any further questions of clarification for Alice? No, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and for being here today. As I mentioned before, the deliberations will happen in a fortnight. All of the verbal and written submissions will be considered as we work through the decisions to be made. So thank you very much. Thank you. John, you are our lucky last for this afternoon. So the same as I mentioned before, you have a total of 10 minutes
My name's John Kennedy. I live in Martinborough. Some people recognise it. I actually live in Hurricane Road, so I have a fairly good observation of one of the, should we say, more interesting roads from that point of view. But I'll start off by saying the speed, certainly the direction that this paper has gone is the right direction, because I think now you can drive around about 3 roads and have about 6 or 7 different speed limits, some of which are totally bizarre. I mean, I'll quote Regent Street, you go around here and you go, or you turn into Regent Street from Puritania Road, and you come to a sports ground, and the speed limit there goes up to 100k, which is totally bizarre. I mean, okay, the argument is you probably can't do 100k, but it's 70k just before it. Most people won't even see it at the sign because they're trying to avoid people and sports gear and vehicles clutter the road and everything. And so, I mean, my general feeling on speed limits is, as I think the other 2 people, both of them do, it's far too complicated. I defy anyone to have gone through Martinborough out to whichever peripheral way they're going, and then say where they had which speed limits to contend, because they don't follow a logical pattern. Some of them do, some of them don't. And just as a digression for a moment, everyone knows going into Featherston on Highway 53, you're going from 100 to 50, because that's the only place I've been pinged on the speed limit. You see the 50 sign, you take your foot off the accelerator, and if you're doing any more than 90, you'll be doing more than 50 by the time you get to the sign. So there's when the cops do come up, they're sort of sitting there with the cash register and they take money off everyone. I'm not allowed to ask questions here, but I'm sure more than half of the people in this room have made a donation from that particular place. My wife very smugly see that. So, I mean, I spent quite a bit of my time living in the UK. I went to the UK from here and sort of forgot to come back for quite a few years. And so over time, I've sort of seen what's been happening or evolving with there. And one of the things is most built-up areas are now 50k. And I'm sure they don't have this debate every few months or years as to what it should be. I don't think any city in Europe has in the built-up area there's a speed limit above 50. And what are we debating here? Should it be 50? Should it be 60? Here's a piece of the road. There's no houses. Let's bring it back up to 60 for the 300 metres and then take it back to 50 again. You need a sort of consistency. It doesn't matter whether it's Featherston, Martinborough, or any town anywhere. You should know automatically by where you are what the speed limit is. And it's true, some of the places the speed will be unnecessarily low, and a few it might be unnecessarily high. But if it's consistent, people are more likely to take note of it or to be aware of it. And take one interesting case in point. I'm sure most of you at some stage have driven in France. They don't even have a speed limit sign at the entrance. They have the sign of the town. So like here, Martinborough, that automatically means you're doing no more than 50. Occasionally they for some complexity of this built up area, sometimes they'll have a speed limit. Mostly there's no speed limit. You try going through that, past that sign at 70 and see whether you get asked to make a donation or not. And you're asked to make it then and there to do. And so that's one. And then leaving the town, you've got the town sign and the diagonal line through it. It says you resume the previous speed. That's all you get. So you don't get a complete clutter of signs. You know, you come in, particularly if it's an area you don't know, there's so many other things you've got to observe. You're lucky if you even see the speed sign, but if you know that that's what it'll be, then that makes sense. The other thing, taking Martinborough as an example, you come into Martinborough now, on Clontarf, and you're well into Martinborough before there's a speed reduction. You know, the speed reduction should start before the bridge, before the Hungaroo Bridge, so that you're already down to that lower speed. The momentum is different. If you're going through part of it at, well, it was 100k, I think it's still a few bits that are 100k. You're not going to suddenly be able to slow down. Whereas, and if you do slow down, other vehicles will pass you, because although the road code doesn't say, more people than not see the sign, and that says go that fast if you can. It doesn't say that's the maximum you can do. And it's an interesting observation. When the Rimutaka Road speed was reduced to 80, there wasn't this pressure. You find yourself before, when it was at 100k, so many people tried to tailgate if they could, because the speed was permitted rather than they needed to do the speed. So that's another one that I think it's common sense, rather than suddenly I woke up one morning and had this great brainwave myself. But all there is something to be said also for all the speeds where it comes down from maximum road speed. Quite a few continental cities they have, and where there's roadworks, they'll, if it's an 80 or 90k open road, there'll be signs. It'll be whatever it still is, 80, 60, 50 or something like that. In other words, begin the slowing down process before you even need to know what is going on. But it gets you've got to get down to the momentum of the speed you want. And also, a number of towns or cities in Europe are starting to go down to certainly the 30k speed limit in the towns, because I think the main thing is that a car or a motor vehicle might be able to do the maximum speed, but they are only one of a percentage of road users. The road, you know what it's like. You walking on some of the roads here with no footpaths. It's intimidating for people that are walking or cycling or something else, because they've got fast vehicles to contend with, and that's the other part. The speed limit is not for the maximum you can drive this vehicle at. It's for something that harmonizes the use of the road for the varieties of people that are likely to be using it. And if it's the higher it is, the more aggressive it appears to other users, whether whoever's driving at the faster speed is being aggressive or is prepared to slow. It doesn't help the other users until they've usually got out of the way. In other words, I can go faster than you. This is my road. You step aside until I get, or if your dog runs out on the road and I squash it, well, tough.
Thank you, John. That is your 10 minutes. I think you've made your point very well and very clear. So thank you for your time today, and thank you for taking the time to write a written submission as well.
Sorry, I didn't get my 1 minute warning before.
There was a little wave. Unfortunately, we don't like to distract too badly from people's flow either.
Just one other point I want to make. I won't take another 10 minutes to do it. There's talk in this document about Puritanial Road putting a sort of a line surface at the edges to extend the width of it. I would contend that it's much better if you can bring, Flood Council can bring the level up parts of it. The grass comes up to almost the level of the road, and like vehicles like the Indy bikes and cyclists and other people can go off on that or go on that anyway, and it's much friendlier than you put a line type surface. On the day you put it, it's there. On the next day, it's there. And the next day, it just gets spread around the place. So, and it would also be a cheaper option, just with the level of, with soil as the level and it being grassed over. So I'd just suggest that that's put in the suggestion.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Right.
Right.
Thanks, John.
Now,
Committee members, before we move on to the speed management review report, Amy is going to read the two statements of two community members who are unable to be with us today. So we'll let Amy do that, and then we will move on to the report. No, these.
Anyway, so I've got Mark's first, sorry. This is for Mark Percival. So his submission was number 134, but this is additional points that he's sent through. Says, my name is Mark Percival. I reside at, I'm not going to say the number of his house, Underhill Road, Tauharaniko. This submission is solely in regard to the proposed changes to the speed limit on Underhill Road from Wakefield Street to the end. My background is as a police officer, now retired 2 years, specialising in traffic duties for 32 years, followed by a civilian role as an intelligence analyst for police specialising in road traffic / crash issues in the Wellington Police District for a further 13 years. I am semi-retired and currently drive the morning and afternoon school bus along Underhill Road. I consider the proposal to lower speed limits on Underhill Road to 40k and 60k to be misguided for the following reasons. The current 50k per hour area does not need to change. There is limited traffic at any time of the day, and the only busy periods are Saturday mornings and Wednesday evenings for sports and sports practice, and occasional midweek days when local schools conduct sports competitions at the grounds. During these periods, I have always seen through traffic, travelling slowly, taking full care around the parked cars and people moving around the roadway. Outside of these times, there is almost no traffic, with some dog walkers and daytime cyclists. At night, the road is deserted. The Underhill Road area is a dead end. This section relates to the 100k area. Underhill Road is a dead end. There is no through traffic and it is straight with no bends. The majority is sealed and it has large runoff verges on both sides with no drains. There are heavy trucks going to and from the quarry near Algis Road. but I have always found them considerate and prepared to move off the road if necessary to allow other traffic to pass. Their speed is usually no more than around 70 km/h. Sorry, just my screen's doing something. But most road users are residents in the area who are known to each other. This is their home area and they don't use it as a racetrack. We are careful of cyclists and dog walkers who are often known regulars. My submission is that the current 100 km/h area speed limit on Underhill Road is a little fast and that this should be reduced to 80 km/h, which is closer to the current user speed on the road. In general, there have been several crashes on Underhill Road since the beginning of 2025. The information I have is that some of the drivers were under the influence of controlled substances and they occurred on the unsealed section of the road. Lowering the speed limit will not stop this from happening. When higher speeds occasionally occur, it is not residents, but are the type of road user, boy racers, etc., who will disregard a lower speed limit as they do the current one. Cyclists and dog walkers, as I mentioned earlier, are treated with respect and now have a dedicated path for them and pedestrians on the unsealed section. Pedestrians have the bonus of wide verges should they want to feel safer. For a speed limit to work, there must be consequences for breaking it. There must be frequent speed detection and enforcement of the limit. That will never happen on Underhill Road. There are not enough police resources to enforce it, and NZTA will not put static or mobile cameras in the area due to low traffic flow. This results in the speed limit soon becoming toothless when everyone, quotation marks, learns it's not enforced. Consider the variable speed limit on the Wellington Urban Motorway, which is not enforced, and I have never seen it to be adhered to. Conclusion. In my expert opinion, I recommend the 50k area of Underhill Road remains at 50k and the 100k section be reduced to 80k. There is no point in reducing a speed limit just for the sake of it. Currently, there is no valid reason to reduce the speed limit on Underhill Road beyond what I've recommended. Couple that with the fact that the area will never see regular enforcement makes any further reduction of the speed limit pointless. I'd more than most understand the need to lower speed limits where they are likely to make an area safer, but Underhill Road with its limited traffic, residents only, straight alignment and wide verges is not one of these areas requiring a lower speed limit. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Amy. And then there was one more.
Yep.
Sorry, who was the publisher?
That was Mark Percival,
Marcus.
and this is Kim Hayes.
So it was pretty much verbatim as what he had written to us.
It's exactly what he wrote.
So,
I'm just reading it out. Yeah. Okay. So this is a submission on the Cape Palliser Road speed change. Firstly, my apologies as
Who's
this from?
Kim Hayes.
Kim Hayes.
Yeah. Her submission actual number was 164 and it's 24 in the speaker's back. Firstly, my apologies as I'm typing this from overseas, but would have loved to have been able to present a submission in person at the hearing. My submission is quite simple. As a resident of Ngawi and regular user of the road, I do not agree to all the proposed speed changes on Cape Palliser Road. Number one, keep the sealed road at the 100k speed limit with the following changes. The speed should be 50 or 60k going through Whatarangi. It is very dangerous if cars are going 100k if someone pulls out of there. Not that I've ever seen anyone doing 100k through there anyway. Ngawi Village Main Road, this should be 30k going through the village as children run across from the food caravans, etc. The unsealed road past Mangatoitoi, you could reduce to 80k. The reason for my statement above is everyone does drive to the conditions already. Regular users know when to slow down and when not to. Tourists always go slow anyway as they look at the views. Regular visitors to the coast know how to drive out there as well. By putting speed changes in place, you are disadvantaging those that go to work in town or to the coast regularly. Early morning, there would be only me on the road 90% of the time, and of those coming towards me will be local farmers, cray fishermen, etc. By putting too many unnecessary restrictions in place, we are creating a generation that can't think for themselves. This is already proving problem in primary schools. Children are not learning to problem solve and use their initiative. Also, let's stop putting a band-aid on things and work together to actually fix this road, which is a community we are all invested in. The accidents that have been on that road have been caused by speedsters that will always speed no matter what speed limit is put in place, and everyone knows this. The signs that are currently on the bad corners are very good and easy to see. So if people don't slow down for those, then that's on them. The end.
Thank you, Amy. That brings us to hearing from Tim and perhaps James as well, speaking to the speed management hearings report. If you'd like to join us for that. Take the report as read, but if there are any points to highlight, that would be fantastic.
I'll take this reading. The consultation document reflected, was adopted by the council back in 2020, with a few minor changes that were proposed on us under the 2024 rule. And it generated a large number of submissions, 220 odd. Staff and officers engaged with as many parties as possible, including minutes from the 2022 process. We reached out as far as we could to try and parties, and that's a requirement. But before that, we submit our plans. As I said, I think we've got what we were trying to achieve, right? There's a steady process, and in the consultation document and the plan, we have stated that any infrastructural improvements will fall through to the 27 to 30 LTB. Can't do any worse because we don't know what the speed limit is going to be. So we've stated that there will be infrastructure improvements, not only around schools, but on the roads which are impacted by the change.
Perfect. Any questions for Tim this afternoon? Bearing in mind that there will be a full report to come. Councillor.
Yeah, I just have one on process, I suppose. What we've heard today is a desire, almost every submitter, of keep it simple, stupid. And in the document, we've got a lot of varieties between 60, 40, particularly around the town areas. It seems to be the main area. And even though we didn't consult on saying, but for an example, say Martinborough, 50 k's right around the boundary and all the towns and things. Are we able to, as a result of hearings, go, okay, well, let's adjust our thinking a little bit to do something like that? Would we be of a mind to do that? Or is that allowed after we've done these hearings?
So I guess the question is there flexibility in the approach to decision making going forward, or do we have to stick to the suggestion of the consultation?
I think that's the whole crux behind going out to the community. To listen to their feedback and incorporate it.
Because I remember last time we when we said, oh, let's look at the non-sealed roads, there was a little bit of commentary and say, oh, you didn't consult on reducing that across the district. And yet we said, well, actually we did. It was in a sort of very small part, but then we had overwhelming feedback on the submissions that reducing on metal roads was a good idea. So it was quite obvious today that the community wanted to keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. Bearing in mind that we have to take the full submission pack into consideration as well, Councillor.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, because one of the reasons that we're here around this table is to represent our communities, and we've opened it up to listen to our communities in terms of submissions, both oral and written. And our job is really to assess that. And I think once we get to the deliberation stage, we should have been able to analyse sufficient for ourselves to make recommendations to officers like
Process question, not a.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So if there's no further questions for Tim, I am looking for a mover, please, to receive the speed management hearings report. Note that 220 submissions were received. Note that of those received submissions, 14 were heard today. And note that the deliberations are scheduled for the 20th of August 2025. A mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Plummer, and a seconder, Councillor Woodcock. Thank you very much. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The motion is carried, and I'd ask you to stand and join me in the closing karakia to close the meeting. Wamutu amatu mahi.
Mō te rewa, manakitia mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, mātou whānau, aio ki te ao.
Right, thank you, everyone. Amy will just turn